All right, Jason, we're live.
This is Tabletop Weekly, and we're the partners of Solarian Games.
I'm Peter.
And I'm Jason. This week, we are joined by Stuart Kerrigan to discuss Knights of Doom, the very first of the official Greyhawk supplements to come out from the DMs Guild. Hi, Stuart.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on.
Thank you. So this week's stories, D&D lays off the key staffer who helped patch up the OGL scandal. Call of Cthulhu, No Time to Scream. Also, Call of Cthulhu has been inducted into the Ennies Hall of Fame. Daniel D. Fox reacquires the Zweihander RPG. And Hasbro's Q3 report shows a decline in D&D revenue despite the 2024 launch. All right, so let's jump right into it with the first story. This is about Wizards of the Coast. All right, so there has been Hasbro. There has been, what do you call those things? Layoffs. There have been layoffs at Hasbro.
He froze for a second.
I think he's been laid off.
Anyone?
Hey, Jason, hold tight real quick. Start that one over because apparently you had a lag there.
Okay. Should we start from the top?
Please.
Okay. So what was the lag? Is there anything I can do about it so we don't have it happen again?
I don't think so. I think it's hotel lag.
Okay. What I might do is switch to a different Wi-Fi and see if that makes it better. Because ironically, sometimes I'm better on a hotspot.
Okay. So while you're doing that, I'll say I'll go ahead and read this one while you're hooking that up. All right.
Read what?
Oh, go ahead. All right. Never mind. Go ahead.
You're going to read what?
I was going to read it while you're switching Wi-Fi.
Oh, I want to do this one.
Okay. All right. I will leave it. I will just say
layoffs are fun, aren't they?
Sure. I'll just let the folks know Jason is on travel, but he is still contributing to the community. So bear with us just a moment. He's in a hotel in Utah. And he's swapping over to a different Wi-Fi to see if he gets a better signal. This was going to take a little editing, I think.
I think you might want to fix this in post, yeah.
I will. It's no problem. It won't take any time. So what part of England are you in?
I'm in Worcester, but I'm actually Scottish. So
okay.
Where Worcester sauce comes from.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's in the West Midlands of the UK. So it's kind of the middle part of England, but not the middle part of the UK.
All right. Hey, there's Jason.
Okay, you got me back.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Is the video and audio better now?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, you were completely right. I was using hotel Wi-Fi, and that's always a mistake.
Okay. All right. Let's do this again. D&D.
We're going to take it from the top.
Right.
And hello to Linda and Peter who are in the live chat. All right, here we go. This is Tabletop Weekly, and we're the partners of Solarian Games.
I'm Peter.
And I'm Jason. And this week, we are joined by Stuart Kerrigan to discuss Knights of Doom, a Greyhawk Journal.
Hiya.
Hey.
Hello, and Stuart. This week's stories. Wizards of the Coast lays off a key staffer who helped patch up the OGL scandal. Call of Cthulhu, No Time to Scream. And Call of Cthulhu also has been inducted into the Ennies Hall of Fame. Daniel D. Fox reacquires the...
Oh, boy.
I think he was going to say Zweihander.
Zweihander RPG.
Zweihander.
Yes.
Oh, boy. Jason, we're still having issues.
Can't get me
We're still having some issues. We're getting you, but it's a little bit in and out.
Well, that's no good. You can't have in and out. I don't know what to do, except maybe, do you think I can join from my phone?
Probably.
Let's try that. All right, I'll see you in just a minute.
Okay. Technical difficulties.
Well, the good news is I'm familiar with most of those products.
Yeah, well, that's good.
So
that's good.
I'll have something to say about most things.
Anybody watching live, hang tight. We'll we'll edit this for the podcast itself. But yeah, Jason's on travel, and so his Wi-Fi is not great. In case you're new to this discussion, he's gonna jump in on his phone, hopefully. I haven't had this much issue with Wi-Fi in hotels in a long time. Usually I get a pretty good signal.
What do they say? Was it the Guild where they talk about the gods of Wi-Fi? And he's driving around in his little van, trying to steal Wi-Fi from people's houses back in the day before we had passwords on it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was the day.
Yeah. We were, where I grew up, we had a cable internet was brand new to the world, and we were in one of the places that got it kind of the first, at least in the United States. I don't know about anywhere else, but Baltimore, oddly enough, Baltimore was one of the ones that got Comcast cable internet first back in like 94. And I just like people come over my house and we're just like, ooh, what is this?
Yeah,
because I would click on a website and it would just come up.
Yeah, I remember that. My best friend had internet, so we were messing around on it, sending emails. And I remember one time we did something. It must have been like sending a fax. We sent a fax to a friend, and his mum picked up, and her voice was coming through the computer, and that scared us. That just wasn't meant to happen.
Yeah, and I remember back during that time, they also had had a computer that had a phone hook in. They were testing out the whole talking on your phone through your computer. But it was such a pain in the butt that nobody ever went with it. It just wasn't. They couldn't get the kinks bugged, the bugs and stuff kicked out of it. So I had another one where they tried to run your TV through. This was again before streaming was really that fast and stuff, and you could hook your cable box into your TV and watch TV. I had one of those, and that was kind of nice. I mean, that worked. That actually worked fine, but it was, it wasn't long before streaming was just as fast, and there was no point in doing all that. All right, where are you at, Jason? He's having a hard time with his phone getting logged in, I would think. We have never tried this with a phone. I was assuming it would work. He could just use his browser and jump in, but I don't know if that's the case.
You could set his phone. I'm a bit of a tech guy. You can set your phone up so you can make your phone a Wi-Fi hotspot and connect to that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that maybe he was doing that. I wasn't sure if he had done that, because I've done that before with my iPhone.
It's the only way my sat nav will talk to my phone. So I bought a sat nav that's got like 2G. Was it supposed to have lifetime 2G coverage? And apparently the company have decided it's dead, even though the sat nav works perfectly, and I can't have 2G coverage on it anymore because so it needs a phone to talk to it.
I think I got a note here. It says going downstairs to get better reception. That might work. It gets closer to the hub, the router. I've done that. So back in the early days, I had a different podcast. I've had several, but anyway, back in the early days, was one time I was on travel for work and we were doing our recording, and I actually recorded it from the bathroom because it was the only place I could sit and get good Wi-Fi without being in the hall, the front lobby way where people are coming in and out. There was like a public bathroom there, and I sat in one of the stalls and recorded an episode from a stall.
Have you seen the movie Highlander?
Yes, I have.
You know how Sean Connery does voiceover at the start? Apparently he did that in his bathroom. So you're in good company. That's why it's echoey. It's not that they did special acoustics. It's his bathroom. I mean, it's Sean Connery's bathroom. It was probably a nice bathroom. Yeah,
I would hope. But yeah, that was some of my old podcasting stories are pretty funny. I got a ton of them because we did it so much. And we did a lot of live stuff. That was my second-ish podcast that I did. We did video like this live, but this was back in the early days when it was a real pain in the butt. There was no site like this where I could just send you a link. It was you had to use one site to talk on, another site to stream it through, and I was a pain in the ass. But I had some really good stories. From one time we were doing our show, and my dog had just gotten this puppy, and he was in the office with me, and he bit through my Wi-Fi, or bit through my LAN cable. while we were so we were doing the show, and all of a sudden everything stops, and I'm like, what the hell? And I was like,
But the dog was all right.
yeah, the dog was fine. No,
right,
it was
good.
it was a phone line. You know, it was a land.
Oh, right. Sorry,
so
right.
Wasn't that big a deal. I mean, he might have got a little bit of a shock, but he was fine. I didn't even know what had happened. I was just like, what is going on? So I'm like looking around. I'm like, you know, and fortunately they were able to stay live. So they kept going on without me. And finally I looked down and I go, oh my God. I pull out the cable. I'm like, you bit through the damn cable.
So in real life, or when I'm not, I'm a computer science lecturer.
Yeah.
I've never had someone say the dog ate my internet as an excuse
for
why they've got their assignments doing, but maybe someone should use that.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. So that was an interesting story. Another one, our show was going really long, and I made an excuse for my. Oh, here we go. Jason's coming back on. There he is. What's up, Jason?
Hey.
Okay, let's try it again. I don't know if it's going to be any better here or not, but we'll try it again.
All right, third time's a charm, right?
Might be.
Actually, I think the first time you read through this, it was fine. So I can use that audio. Why don't we move on to the first story?
You sure?
Yeah. The audio for the first time was pretty decent. It wasn't until you got to the slide where we first started having troubles.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to straight into the story then.
Okay.
Are we live?
Yes, we're good to go.
Okay. Okay. Wizards of the Coast lays off key staffer who helped patch up the OGL scandal. So Hasbro has recently done a relatively big layoff of about 100 employees, and of those, 4 of them were Wizards people, and that includes Dixon Dubois. And I may or may not be pronouncing his last name correctly, but Dixon was known pretty well in the D&D creator world as a liaison for D&D. Dixon was in fact key in
it's happening again, Jason. I'm sorry.
Well, I guess maybe we don't have me today.
Oh man.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
So what exactly is happening?
You're getting lag. I think you're again, like your connection's probably not.
What's lag mean?
So like
you
freeze and then we can't hear you.
Just the video?
Yeah. No. If it was just the video, I wouldn't worry about it. It's also the audio.
Okay. Do you think that turning my video off would help with the audio?
That probably would.
Yeah, that would lower your bandwidth usage. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably quite a lot.
I'll tell you what. The only other thing I'm going to ask of you is to tell me if you hear any background noise, because I came downstairs to get better Wi-Fi reception, and they've decided that everybody needs music at all times in their life. You cannot possibly exist for a few seconds in this world if music is not playing.
We're not hearing the music.
No, I couldn't hear anything.
Good.
Yeah, so just kill the video. You'll be all right.
Okay. All right. So now just, I guess, let me know if it goes weird again, and I will do one more.
You're now talking capital J.
But that's
on
good.
My screen.
That'll work.
Is there any way to... You know what? Fine. I'm a capital J. That's what happens.
Yeah.
It could be a lot worse. It could be like a really bad photo of me for my driver's license or something.
Right.
If you're going to be a letter, you might as well be a capital.
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Wizards of the Coast lays off a key staffer who helped patch up the OGL scandal. Hasbro has laid off about 100 employees recently, and that includes 4 people from Wizards, which includes Dixon Dubois. So in his role at Wizards, Dixon Dubois acts as a liaison with many content creators producing D&D actual plays, podcasts, videos, other kinds of things online. Basically, if you were making content for D&D, especially if you were using the OGL, there's a good chance at some point that you would have interacted with Dixon Dubois. Now, anybody who's focusing on that world may probably remember there was a big backlash about a year ago when Wizards decided to change the OGL. So first of all, the OGL in a way is what kind of saved Dungeons and Dragons from the first place. And Stuart, I'm guessing this is possibly something you would have dealt with back in the day.
Well, I mean, I never had to deal with the OGL, but I know a lot of people's bread and butter depended on it. You know, a lot of third-party Dungeons and Dragons. So, I mean, I wrote a lot of Living Greyhawk stuff, so that was all Wizards of the Coast approved. But yeah, I could see why people, you know, there's a lot of companies, you know, just off the top of my head, Paizo, Green Ronin, and people like that who kind of cut their teeth making D20 adventures.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to argue that a big part of the reason for the success of D&D in modern times, anyway, is that there's so much third-party content available, and they've made it so relatively easy to make that content, to understand what are the legal things you need to do. So you don't have to go and negotiate a copyright every time and spend months with lawyers just to put out a book. The OGL was what really lifted them up. And so when last year, Wizards decided that instead of making it free and easy like it had been before, they're going to charge creators 25% of their revenue. And what was even worse, if I remember correctly, they actually said that Wizards had the right to your material if you made it under the new OGL.
Right.
Why would anybody do that? And they wouldn't.
A well thought out idea, wasn't it?
No.
It was a really good idea.
It was
clearly made by somebody with a finger on the pulse.
It sounds like somebody who got jealous of Apple's revenue in the App Store or something like that. You know, they thought, we're so big, we can do anything. Well, they weren't so big. They couldn't do anything. And they really, I think they remembered just how bad it was the last time they messed up, because entire new companies were born out of the fact that people didn't want to play D&D anymore back around 4th edition time.
That's correct.
Like you said, Paizo.
Yeah.
So they had to recover. And one of the things that they had to do was really work with the community. And Dixon DeBow was key in helping them recover. At the D&D Creator Summit, this was the big chance for essentially everybody to come together and shake their fists and light their torches and pull out the pitchforks. Quote from, I don't remember who said this quote, but it was somebody in the community, influential person, who said, quote, Dixon DeBow proved to be the breakout star on the D&D team, a true advocate for positive change. At the Creator Summit, Dixon may have attained folk hero status to the creator community with the honesty and conviction he displayed.
Ooh.
Well, that's got to be punished.
Yeah. How dare
Stack
you?
'em. Yeah.
So
I'm just glad that none of this reeks of corporate greed at all. None of it.
No, in no way whatsoever. You know what I think it reeks of worse, though? I don't even think it reeks of corporate greed. It reeks of apathy.
Yeah. It'll be
all right.
It'll be made by somebody. Decision will be made by somebody who didn't know him, didn't know what he does. You know, looking at a spreadsheet, we need to save this amount this year.
Yeah.
I don't know. The only consolation I could say is that he's joining a long and distinguished list of people who've been laid off, because apparently these layoffs are quite brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Laid off a lot of talent over the years.
You know, I'm just going to get on a little tiny soapbox for a moment and say, you know, because you see this endemic, not just throughout the gaming industry, but throughout any industry where there are shareholders involved. And there's a great article that I don't have a link to right now, but I'll encourage people to just sort of search for it. And it was one that said shareholder value, or basically increasing shareholder value, something like that. Basically said shareholder value is what's killing the economy. Because there was a point up until really not that long ago in the 1970s where the main purpose of a stock was to make profits for the company. And yes, as a shareholder, you would get money as the company did better. But the main purpose of a company was to actually do what they were good at and to be better as a company. Some point, things changed and they started getting rewarded on quarterly returns and how much they increased value for the shareholders that quarter, and nothing else. Were you making a great product? Who cares? Do customers love you? Who cares? Are you good for the society? Nobody cares. Did you increase shareholder value? Here's your reward. And so, you know, a place like Wizards, they don't have a choice at this point. You know, they've got bosses at Hasbro. Hasbro's got bosses in the market, and they're all just saying, I didn't eat enough this quarter. I want more.
Right. Yeah, and there's no consideration to the long-term downstream effects of it. It's all immediate. It's all, like you said, quarterly. And Jason, you know, I don't really know if this is an actual fact or not, but I think it is.
Anyway.
I say it anyway, just so you all know. I don't know if it's an actual fact or not, but I think can't they sue a company if a company makes a decision that knowingly causes them to lose profit?
I don't know the exact details of it, but I think generally you're right. I think it's essentially you have a fiduciary duty to your shareholders, and they can do something to you. I don't know if it means that they can vote to kick you out or if they can actually take legal action. The point is they have some sort of power over companies that say, we don't think you're doing everything you can to make us richer, so do the thing we want.
Right. And there's
why hostile takeovers can happen, and why you see really strange choices get made, because it will increase shareholder value for the quarter.
Right. And that's why it's always like, you know, you hear about, oh, they're going to incorporate and they're going to have all this money to do all this stuff. And sometimes it's kind of like, oh, that's awful. I don't want them to incorporate. I'd really rather them stay, you know, unincorporated as a personally owned business, not a stockholder company. But, you know, then they need capital to grow. So it's that double-edged sword.
Yeah. If you're an entrepreneur or a founder and you're starting a company, there's always going to come a point where you need more capital, and it's often a deal with the devil. You know, What does it mean for you down the line? So I feel I'm very hopeful that Dixon DeBow, I'm sorry. I'm very hopeful that Dixon DeBow is going to find a great new job somewhere else or start something great on his own. Really feel bad for him about this, and does not look. It's not a good look, guys. D&D fellas, it's not a good look. Don't do that.
No.
Surely they must be about to get a huge influx of income from, I don't know, 3 books that are coming out like in the next few months that they could have kept them on.
We will be talking about that today.
Yeah.
You know, well, I don't know. This happens. Companies release a successful product. And I was thinking about it. Games Workshop did the Warhammer 40K role-playing game, which people have been asking for years, and it became like the number one. And then they announced, we're getting out of role-playing books, and we're firing everybody. We're going to license it off to someone else. So
they're not the only ones that do that. You know, I used to have a show where I interviewed a bunch of scientists and stuff. We were doing a show talking to an astronaut about the Apollo missions and stuff. And he said that, when they were on their way home, the first mission, the Apollo 7, the mission's coming home, and all these people at NASA got laid off. All these contractors got laid off because, hey, we did it. Okay, you're all fired.
Well done. You have done what you said.
Like, they haven't even put their feet back on Earth yet. So it happens everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
to quote
joys of modern contracts.
To quote Kurt Vonnegut from the book I just finished reading by him, The Sirens of Titan. But what have you done for me lately?
Right. Yep.
All right. Peter, you got the next story.
Yes. Call of Cthulhu, No Time to Scream. This is a new book out by B.W. Hollard, Bridget Jeffries, and C.L. Werner. It's being released by Chaosium Games. So it's an official Chaosium Games book. We talked last week about a third-party Cthulhu thing, but this is the official Chaosium. It's a collection of 3 one-shot scenarios for Call of Cthulhu, just out in time for Halloween if you want to do some one-shots for the holiday. Each adventure is designed to be played in about 2 hours, so these are great one-shots, and you can always expand those if you really want to, or a lot of times you'll get players like, this was only supposed to be 2 hours, why are we still here? But it comes with pre-generated characters, full color maps, and engaging handouts. And apparently,
this is the second of such books they've made where it's like short scenarios, isn't it? There's another one where you play Dead Border or something. I can't remember what it's called, but there is another one that's like this.
Well, that's awesome. I love these, especially like if these are really good for people to run at conventions and stuff too. Like if you wanted to run.
I wonder if you all think that this is becoming a bit more of a trend because the adventures that were played back in the pre-internet days were always things that would run for hours and hours because we had the time. And Wizards is putting out these huge books that are meant to be entire campaigns rather than a module. But it seems like what a lot of people want to do is to say, I don't have that kind of time in my life. I want to play, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to commit like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I know Savage Worlds. I've talked to the couple of people that put out Savage Worlds, and they said that the whole idea behind Savage Worlds was that gamers were getting older, and they had sat down and talked and said, we want something that is fast and easy to play, and something I can make an adventure for in like 15 minutes and then run it in like 3 hours.
I've got the first one. The first one's called Gateways to Terror.
Okay.
Ooh, nice.
Gateways to Terror. It's 3 evenings of nightmare, if you're into that sort of thing. So they've obviously realized it's been at least 3 years since they wrote that. So they need to come up with something new for Halloween.
That's cool. Very cool.
That's so great. Yeah.
And
for self plug here. So we've just put out a new adventure for Top Secret, which is meant to be played in just a couple of hours, and it's free, and you can get it on topsecretrpg.com. Now that we're talking about this, maybe we should focus more on doing a lot more things that you can play that quickly.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the whole Black Ops idea, right? I mean, Black Ops is a little longer than that, but they were supposed to be quickish adventures, something you would do in an evening or maybe 2 if you stretched it out.
Yeah, this is good. We'll think about doing that.
Okay, and there's the 3 stories. One's A Lonely Thread, Bits and Pieces, and Aurora Blue, and they all sound really cool. Nice, good hooks. The one, I'll just give one of them. A doctor's body lies next to an autopsy table, and the corpse he was examining has vanished. The only clue is a set of bloody footprints. That's cool.
Nice.
I like that. Yeah.
Those could only lead somewhere good, those footprints.
Absolutely. It's to the
Just
kitchen. Making a sandwich.
It's going to be fun.
I get the sense, I have not read any of these yet, but it just seems like this is going to be really good writing.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds like it.
There's such good ideas.
I hope they have considered the contingency that you might just go, I call the police and tell them about the footprints.
Oh, that's fine.
First.
You call the police, and and police show up that are cultists.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here.
Yep. 2 types of cops: useless ones and cultists.
All right. The next story that we have here about Call of Cthulhu, again, some great news for the folks at Chaosium. Call of Cthulhu has been inducted to the ENnies Hall of Fame. They are the second game ever to be inducted into the ENnies Hall of Fame because this is the first time there's ever been an ENnies Hall of Fame. I don't exactly know what it's going to mean. I don't think they have a big museum like they do for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think it's just a thing. But what they're doing, EnWorld, or the ENnies actually specifically, is doing a celebration because it's the 25th year of the ENnie Awards. And so they've decided to do a Hall of Fame. And they're going to be announcing a new inductee on the 25th of every month up until August 2025. So 25, 25, 25, Zager and Evans says hello. And the first inductee was Dungeons & Dragons, of course, which was announced on September 25th. And so, I mean, maybe this is going to be a little bit of a who's the most important. I think putting Call of Cthulhu second is pretty fair.
That's pretty fair.
I'm trying to think who'd be third then.
I can see Hero Games being right up in the top.
What was your vote, Peter?
I would say Hero Games is right up there. I mean, maybe not the third one, but they're definitely in the top 10.
I don't know what Hero Games is.
Champions.
Oh, maybe. I was thinking maybe Shadowrun or something, because I'm just trying to think of other games.
Well, if we think Hall of Fame kind of things, we have to think of something that is so fundamental to the industry, right? So maybe, I mean, yeah, Shadowrun might be. Was Shadowrun the first cyberpunk RPG?
No, I think Cyberpunk. Wasn't Cyberpunk? I thought it was before Shadowrun.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But I could definitely see Traveler. I mean, Traveler was not officially the first science fiction game. That goes to Ken St. Andre's game that he made, which I've forgotten the name of off the top of my head. But I think Traveler is probably if you want to say what's the Dungeons and Dragons of sci-fi gaming,
Mm,
that would probably
sure.
be Traveler.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe the third one will be something sci-fi then, of some
That would be
kind.
cool. Yeah, I like
I
sci-fi.
have another guess. Vampire the Masquerade, perhaps.
That's
Be
a good one.
Yeah, that's a
Good
good
one.
point. I thought of that. Yeah.
I always felt that Vampire the Masquerade was, pardon the pun, but was definitely a game changer. I mean, when they introduced that system, that was something that was really, it's fresh. It was a really fresh take on how to play role-playing games. And it was one of the first really big step-aways from, what people thought of as a way to play role-playing games. Vampire comes out, I was like, wow, what is this system? This is so cool.
That's a good way to look at it, in terms of what should be a Hall of Fame game. Did it make that kind of impact? I wonder, what do you guys think? Would Tunnels and Trolls be one of them?
I never played it.
Well, I'm just thinking because of it being the first real different approach to role-playing games.
I don't really know. It's a funny game.
Maybe not.
It's definitely noteworthy. I don't know. Hall of Fame, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, you're right. Hall of Fame might be bigger than just noteworthy. I'm saying noteworthy, but you're saying Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be bigger. So looking forward to find out. Oh, somebody I don't see who the Facebook user is, but somebody said Twilight 2000.
Oh, that's Phil Fortino. I was checking out the Facebook page just so I could catch, because it doesn't show on our thing.
You're right.
But he also said a little while ago, he said he just received the 2 Black Ops adventures and they look great. Thanks, Phil.
Oh, great. They're not Hall of Fame, but
no,
but yeah, I totally agree with Twilight 2000. That should absolutely be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
All right.
So the next one is Daniel D. Fox reacquires Zweihander RPG. Zweihander.
Two-hander.
Yes. He was the original creator of Zweihander, and he has reacquired the license from World of Game Design. Now, I hadn't realized that he didn't have it anymore.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either.
But I don't know the details of any of that, but basically it's back in his hands as he has control over it again. And he said he has plans for future releases, community content, and further developments. Apparently World of Game Design had helped them a lot with their recent growth and expanded the presence at conventions and within the retail market. And they are continuing to support the transition and ensuring fulfillment of the Zweihander Reforged Kickstarter. Daniel Fox expressed appreciation for WOGD's efforts and noted plans for further development in the game. Now, what's interesting is I think, isn't that the guy we're working with a little bit, Jason? We've done some coordination with him or some
coordinated efforts with him. Nothing we're talking about.
No. I'm just saying.
We're not announcing anybody we work with behind the scenes, so I'd rather not talk about that.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Well, that all sounds on the level and fine, and there's nothing to worry about then.
No, I don't mean it that way. I just mean
I meant the press release sounds very well. There's nothing to see here.
Yeah.
No.
I do own a few Zweihander books. So that's it's like a retro clone of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. So you've got Warhammer and Zweihander. They're both German. I guess they're both sort of pseudo-Germany. It's a very gritty, dark setting. It was basically made when Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay looked like it wasn't going to come back. So it's a very suspiciously similar system.
So are we talking like saying something like whereas Pathfinder is to D&D, where Zweihander is to...
I think that's probably where they'd like to be. I don't know if that's quite where they are. I don't know. I think when 4th edition Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay came out, Zweihander, that hurt Zweihander a little bit, I suspect. I don't really know. But
how have they been doing? I mean, how is Zweihander getting a good foothold, do you think?
I don't know. I've been trying to avoid finding out. I've had some odd interactions in that community, and some of the books are fine. They tend to be quite massive, if you want to work out, buy a few Zweihander books and just lift them up and down, and you'll get some good muscles. So he did something. There's another one called Flame of Freedom that they did, which was about it's set in America around about, I don't really know American history very well, the sort of time of like Last of the Mohicans, that sort of period. But all the magic is real.
I don't know what time that would be either. Is that early 19th
colonial
century?
Times? Is that what it would be?
Yeah, so late 18th or
it's like colonial Gothic. That's the name of the genre, isn't it?
Colonial Gothic. Oh yeah, you're talking early 1800s.
Well, Stuart, you're Scottish, so we were both fighting the English around that time.
Yeah, well, yeah.
We just needed a few more Highlanders. Is all we needed.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we won. Never mind.
Yeah. If you want them, you can keep them. Yeah, they've done quite a lot of stuff over the years. There was an old Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay supplement that never got made called Setsubo, which I think is Japanese for Warhammer.
Yeah,
and they were going to make that for a while, and that didn't work out for various reasons. There was something about the original manuscript wasn't culturally sensitive enough anymore. Because I assume it was probably written by somebody who really liked watching, Rashomon and things like that.
A lot of things back then got written by somebody who would be like, well, I watched a bunch of TV shows about it and I read a book, so therefore I can't possibly screw this one up.
Right.
And then,
I mean, it's fantasy, so you could always just say, if I got it wrong, well, I've added some new flavor to this, I guess.
I don't know.
Writing a book on Japan. I mean, it wasn't set in Japan. It would be set in the Warhammer equivalent of Japan, which could be completely different. You get it wrong.
Yeah, but
I don't know. I saw a bunch of people. There's some things that were in the first edition AD&D, like the phylacteries, right? Which, so I am ethnically Jewish and my family is pretty Jewish. And these things, when I saw those, I was kind of like, hands off, buddy. And I saw some people recently actually going all the way to the point of actually saying, oh, my character is going to wear tefillin. And I'm like, I get that it's fantasy, but maybe put that down. Just leave that alone. Okay, buddy? So, I get it. Sometimes it's better to just...
I know.
What you're talking about first.
My understanding is that a lot of Japanese people are very kind of understanding when you mess up, because they're actually just they take it as a compliment that you're interested in the culture.
That's the thing. There's a big difference between being Japanese and being Japanese American. You don't have to deal with any of American society. I mean, that's the thing is it's very difficult sometimes to get that nuance across in something like, say, an internet forum. And so usually when conversations like this start, I just sort of nope it for the door.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, there's all nuances about to be lost. I think I'll go have lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that leads us to the last story.
Yes.
Do you want to take this one, Jason, or you want me to take it?
Well, I'll start it and let's bounce around. So Hasbro's Q3 report shows a decline in D&D revenue, despite the 2024 launch. So this is a decline in all D&D revenue. So yes, the 2024 Player's Handbook has been successfully released, but it has not shown in the overall impact on Hasbro's bottom line. So they have strong sales, but during the Q3 report, Hasbro CEO Chris Cox and CFO Gina Getter chose to focus on Magic the Gathering rather than D&D. So basically, the total revenue dropped 15% year over year, while gaming revenue saw a slight uptick, 3% year to date, but down a little bit in Q3. But there's a catch. So, shall I go ahead and tell the catch?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think there's probably a lot of people are going to be talking about, I told you D&D is going broke. But what really happened was Baldur's Gate was a huge success. And so what you saw was a ton of revenue coming from Baldur's Gate 3 back in 2023. So this year they did great, but they didn't have another Baldur's Gate 3 event. And so as a result, we have essentially a decline in revenues.
Right.
And so it's time to lay off anybody who ever helped us.
Right. Yeah. So like when they talk about, companies doing well and doing poorly and all that kind of stuff, and again, like we were talking about before, if you're going from quarter to quarter, it's like, oh, we lost money this quarter. You have to look at the overall picture, right? Like a company doesn't come into existence and only exists for 3 months. There's the history and the future of it. So looking at one tiny little slice of something that's going on, or even comparing it to the previous slice, isn't always a fair shake. You know what I mean?
They're still making money, I presume. They're not out in the streets with a tin cup begging.
They're making money. It's just,
okay.
it's just how much are they making versus how much they were making.
Oh,
and
we might not be able to have foie gras for dinner every night tonight.
Right, exactly.
Oh no, we'll have to use the silver china.
Right.
Yeah. So we will see how they do.
Right.
All right.
I think they might make it, Jason. I think they might.
They're going to be all right. I think they might experience a swift upturn in their fortunes in the next 3 months.
Right.
All right. So now let's get to our big story of the week. So as we mentioned last week, Wizards of the Coast with the DMs Guild has never before allowed Greyhawk content in the DMs Guild. And with Greyhawk now being, I guess you could say, back officially in the DMs Guide, the big news was it can happen again. And lo and behold, we have the very first person to create Greyhawk content under the DMs Guild here with us today. So we have Stuart Kerrigan. Hello. You've already been here, but hello again, Stuart.
Hello. It's nice to still be here.
Tell us about Knights of Doom.
Well, okay, so Knights of Doom is what I call a micro supplement. It's not a huge supplement. It's basically a piece of work that I did. So there's been a bunch of us old timies who kind of got together. I started Greyhawk when I was in uni, about 20 years ago, and then I ended up becoming a triad member for the Living Greyhawk campaign in the UK. Are you guys familiar with that?
With the Living Greyhawk?
So that was like the in the early 2000s, they did like a huge shared campaign where there were adventures. They divided the Greyhawk regions up into and gave them to real world countries. So I think like Keeland is like New York or something like that. I can't really remember all the Americans. All the Americans got all the good bits.
Well, of course we did.
And there were core bits. No, I mean by the end of it, they were handing out regions there's a region called the Dull Strand, and they gave that to, I think it was South Africa. I can't remember.
Oh, that's just wrong.
So it's like, here, have the Dull Strand. I mean, it wasn't a dull area, but I mean, still, come on. It wasn't exactly the city of Greyhawk. Right. So I'm going to that.
Help me understand how it worked, though, because I know about Living Greyhawk. I was never a participant in any way. Can you give a little more detail on exactly how that worked?
So what you would do is you would create a character, and it was like there was no dice rolling involved. It was all points buy, and then you would rock up to a game near you, which you could find usually on the RPGA website, or you could run your own games if you could find a dungeon master, and you reported the games on the web. Any magic items that you found, you got a piece of paper for them, so you couldn't say you had a Ring of Wish, when you were first level. It was all signed off. Basically, every adventure cost you a certain number of time units as well, and you only had a certain number of you had 52 a year, so you couldn't get to like 20th level in 1 year, essentially. And there were lots of coordinated. It was coordinated by the RPGA, the Role Playing Games Association, which was I think it's now the organized play of Wizards. They don't really. It's more like the old. It's like Adventurers League now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it was like.
Was these always in-person games? Were they played by mail or online? Or were they always in person?
Well, we're talking about 2000s. I don't know if they were played on. I think they were played online by the end of the campaign. I can't remember. Okay. But people would do. So you could only play a Keeland adventure if you were in New York. Though you couldn't play it if you were in, say, England. Mm-hmm. We had the region of Onwall, which is quite a cool region. There wasn't a lot written about it at the time, though. It's the one on the Greyhawk map that looks like a little peninsula that looks like a dragon's head. That's why we call it the dragon's. So I got involved with that, and I did a lot of writing for that. I wrote a couple of articles along with my colleagues that appeared in what was called the Living Greyhawk Journal, which was a little magazine that used to come out. and it was given to RPGA members. You paid a small fee. It was like $24 a year, and you got 6 magazines and various other perks and the ability to order these adventures and get them as PDFs and just run them and report them. And I thought the Living Greyhawk Journal was like the best thing that came out of the whole campaign, because it was just a 32-page full-color magazine with just nothing but Greyhawk lore and rules and adventures that were all approved for the campaign. So naturally, it lasted about 5 issues.
Oh,
And then it got
sounds like
rolled.
Gygax magazine.
It got rolled into Dragon and Dungeon, but then it was like you would get 1 article a month. Or maybe an article every 2 months or whatever. I can't remember how long it was. I wrote a couple of articles because we were in the UK. We only had 1 region. So we started bombarding them with lots and lots of articles. And I think it was Eric Mona was the editor, who was a massive Greyhawk fan as well. In fact, he wrote, the seminal book on Greyhawk. He would be like, please stop sending us articles about On Wall. And I'd be like, but we only have 1 region, and you're British. So I got into it that way. When the campaign, just before the campaign finished, I was a student at the time. I was doing my PhD. And my supervisor sat me down one day and went, look, Stuart, you've got 2 choices. You can either finish your PhD or you can write Dungeons and Dragons. I think I made the right decision, because especially with all those layoffs recently.
Right.
So, I kind of went off, tried to grow up, failed miserably, found other hobbies and things, but I sort of came back to it around about the same time as various other people. And we've been working together on various projects and things and just making things for fun. So Knights of Doom is an old thing from, if you look on the last page of the article, I've written it all. You can tell I'm an academic. So I'm like, here are all my references.
Right.
There's like,
I love that.
there's references that go all the way back to like Dragon 59, and it's an article written by Robert J. Kuntz, who was one of Gary Gygax's contemporaries. He was the guy that invented the Knights of Doom. I think they were called the Demonic Knights of Doom to begin with, but then in 2nd edition they became Fiend Knights because we can't have demons anymore.
Oh, that's right. I didn't make the connection until you said that just now. Okay.
They came back. There's a supplement for Greyhawk called Ivid the Undying, which is one of the first PDFs I think that was ever released. It was the first time they thought about digitally distributing a source book. I don't know if it's the first one, but it was 1995, I think, when it came out. So it was pretty early. This was back when TSR didn't have any money, and they were having all these problems. They couldn't afford to print their books.
Yeah.
If you read the history, there was some snafu with the printer. The printer, they had an exclusive contract with them or something, and they owed the printer lots and lots of money, so they wouldn't print anything. So they went out of business, and then got bought by Wizards of the Coast. So
that's essentially what happened, is that D&D or TSR had negative money at that point, and Wizards didn't so much buy them as just paid their debts for them. That's really what they did. They're like, look, we'll pay off your debts, and then we own everything. And so in a sense, they saved them, because they, like you say, they were about to just be gone. That was just it.
Yeah. It's a good job Peter Adkison liked Dungeons and Dragons. So they had a whole bunch of books and things that they weren't going to print, and I don't know if that's what happened to Ivid the Undying, because the Greyhawk wasn't selling particularly well next to the Forgotten Realms. I mean, they had a lot of fantasy settings back then. They had Greyhawk, they had Forgotten Realms, they had Mystara, they had Birthright as well. They're all kind of medieval fantasies. They've all got their own thing going on. I mean, Birthright sounds a bit like Highlander to me. Everybody's like taking power from one another. So the Fiend Knights were in Ivid the Undying, but they also printed parts of it in Dragon magazine as well. And I think it's Dragon 206 has got a really lovely picture of a Fiend Knight, and the only thing that's fiendish about him is he's got a big goatee on his face.
You hear that, Peter?
I hear that.
With your big goatee.
I need to have a.
It is an impressive goatee though that Fiend Knight has. So we've been kind of kicking this around, and one of my colleagues that I've been working on a project with had done a stat block for the Fiend Knights, and they're not the most interesting monsters in the original write-up. They were like, they're humans, but they're immune to charm, sleep, and a few other things. And we were kind of like, oh, we could go a little bit more with this, especially with all these days with all the rules for things like fiendish attachments. So I kind of went back through the original lore that Kuntz and Sargent had written, and there were all these different regiments. So I started giving the different regiment members powers. Like one of them's called the Howlers, and they're like the shock troopers. And so basically, these are people who serve the Overking, who is like an evil demon worshipping maniac. And they get rewarded by being taken away and operated on, essentially, and turned into kind of demonic humans. And
Nice.
he's also a very paranoid gentleman, so he kind of takes away their individuality and their ability to think and what's the word? The ability to think for themselves and
Takes their autonomy.
Yeah, their autonomy. Which is what you want in your generals and your knights and things. Is you want them to not be able to think. They just want them to blindly follow orders. Like you say, watch my dinner for me, and your dinner burns, and they go,
I watched it.
Still watching it, yeah. So that's the idea of the Fiend Knights, is that they're basically a bunch of almost automatons was kind of what I was going for, although other people have had different takes. So there's like a lot of deep dive into their background, and we did some. We updated the stat blocks to 2024. We had a bunch of pictures of like horrible looking knights, and we had this PDF, and I thought, this would be a fun little thing to put out, and accidentally uploaded it a few days early.
Oh, that's how you were first.
We weren't on the main carousel because I took it down very quickly because one of my co-authors was like, well, you said I was going to check it before it went out, and I was like, yep, it's down. Which turns out is a brilliant idea to do on DM's Guild. It really helps your sales if you take it down immediately, so it doesn't appear on the new what's hot or what's new. So
worthy or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you. I was talking with our friend AJ Davenport yesterday, Greyhawk 4x4 on YouTube, and we were talking about what exactly it means for Greyhawk to be in the DM's Guild now. He was a little bit dejected because he said when he looked through everything, there was all these things he couldn't do. So I was like, "Are you going to put some stuff up there?" He's like, "I can't use any. I can't have any of the characters or there's so much IP that they left out." But I didn't really get the details. What do you know about it?
So there is this weird clause that says you can't use anything that's not been in a book for 2014. But then that would mean you can't use anything in Greyhawk then.
Right.
Essentially. I mean, you can use whatever's in the DMG when it comes out some people already have it. Lucky people.
Yeah. But, I saw somebody putting up an actual physical one online. And I was like, wait a minute, you're not supposed to have that.
Nah, they do. It's these influencers these days. They all get all the cool stuff sent to them before us peasants.
Yeah.
It's a big deal in the sense that you can now write content for it, because there hasn't been any content for it since really the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, which is the last big product that came out, and that's in the early 2000s. And despite its name, that's not actually a book just for the Living Greyhawk campaign. It's a 3.0 book, but it's got very little mechanics in it. It's just like this country. It's got probably the biggest, the longest take on each country in the Flanaess. And in my view, it's kind of the definitive work. If you want to grab a PDF on Drive-Thru or whatever, or DM's Guild, go for the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, because it's just and it should be put on print on demand immediately. I demand it's on print on demand. People would love a hardback copy because it was a softback, and all the softbacks are starting to fall to pieces after 20 years. So yes, it is a big deal. It's a big deal, and I think, it's going to be cool to see what happens.
So in the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, was there a time frame? I mean, were things happening in different eras, or was it all meant to essentially be around the same time?
So there's 3 eras of Greyhawk, and this one, the Living campaign, took place in the the furthest along the timeline that they got with the meta plot, which is 591 CY. The new DMG's got 576, so it's winding back to Gary Gygax's original box set. So between the Gygax box set and the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, 15 years of products and things, 15 years of in-universe history have elapsed. Once you got to Living Greyhawk, each year after 2001 became a different year of the campaign. So 2001 was 591, and so was 2000. That was just to launch the campaign. Then 2002 was 592, and I think it ran till 2008. So it went all the way up to 598.
Okay.
So yeah, there were things happening. It got a little bit out of hand, I think, because every region was like, we want to have a massive epic threat happening. So it was like
of course,
if you were in like the situation room, every nation in the country, every nation in the world on the map suddenly went red as like liches would appear out of nowhere or undead or whatever. It was just getting a bit crazy. So yeah, that's how Living Greyhawk kind of worked. So there was meant to be like an ongoing plot in every region. It just got a little bit crazy because every region was, being overrun by whatever the triads wanted to happen. There's also a famous story where two of the campaign organizers got drunk at a convention and just decided to nuke a country. There were some countries that weren't allocated to for general use. They were what was called core, like the city of Greyhawk. There's another country called Tenna, which has had a pretty horrible history past the Greyhawk Wars, and then the convention organizers decided that they would basically destroy it with extraplanar aliens on top of everything else.
Oh my god!
Imagine you were in like a bombed out city in World War II, and then aliens come out of the sky and start destroying everything. I was like, God, come on, give us a break.
That sounds like a good opportunity to go back and retroactively write a nice little crossover piece there.
I think we'd rather prefer that didn't happen.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine.
I think we've just got that. That was a fun set of adventures, and well done you for writing them. And if the great thing about I suppose democratizing it by having it on DM's Guild is if you thought that was a great plot line, you can write it up or write a campaign about it if you want. So if you want poor Tenna to suffer by the ether threat or whatever it was called, go for it, I suppose.
So yeah, in the DM's Guild, then, because there is not going to be a central authority checking these things, I suppose people could have very conflicting events.
Yeah. So Knights of Doom, I tried to keep as sort of time neutral as possible, but there's a little sidebars where it's like, well, this is what happens in the future, and this is what it means for this organization. And I think I even went, look, like they could be anywhere. If you want Fiend Knights in your Spelljammer campaign, well, there was this big weird planar thing that happened where one of the cities blew up and all the Fiend Knights were in it, and it's now its own demi-plane or something. So if you want them in Spelljammer or Dark Sun or whatever, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. I think that's a great idea. Your players might think it's a bit odd, but
so Stuart, I've seen some sentiments online around Greyhawk being this way because they won't be putting out official Greyhawk books. At least that's the word. I've seen some sentiments of people who think that's a really good thing because it kind of puts Greyhawk more in the hands of the community. What do you think?
Ooh, well, I have to be careful what I'm saying. Let me put it this way. I'm also a Ravenloft fan, and I looked at the 5th edition Ravenloft Van Helsing's book, and I went, I'm sure glad they're not going to make a Greyhawk book. I was like, just leave it alone. Let it rest. So, I tend to be very plot-driven. I like things like, with Greyhawk, you've got the Gary Gygax era, then you've got what's called the Greyhawk Wars era, and then you've got the era that came after that, which I think we're calling the Reclamation era, which is where things start to try and go back from the chaos of the wars. And I like having an ongoing meta plot. I don't like things like, the Frankenstein character in Ravenloft, he's now a woman, and we're going to change that continuity. I'm like, well, no, work with the original campaign. We like the original campaign. Yeah. That's, don't change things just for the heck of it, and there have been quite a few changes in what we've seen from the Greyhawk DMG entry. Things like the Scarlet Brotherhood aren't called the Scarlet Brotherhood anymore. They're called the Scarlet Order. Now, they're a massive baddie. They're one of the 3 big baddies. They're basically they're led by a bunch of kung fu fighting Nazi monks. Basically, they're very,
All right.
they're not
I wanna
nice
see that
guys.
movie.
So I don't know what the thinking there was. Were they going, "Oh, we can't call them the Brotherhood. That's a gendered term. Let's call them Scarlet Order." I mean, they're the baddies. Yeah, they can be sexist as well. They do have female monks. They're called sisters because it's a fraternal organization.
Sure.
They're not
I
very
think
nice
it's pretty
people.
fair for the baddies to also be bad in other ways. I agree with you.
So Jason, just real quick, I'm
sorry,
having
but we
having
did
a
not put the Nazis through HR training this month.
I'm having a
They
dead
already-
Kennedys thing going on here. So
They already
that?
had an alternative name though, because they're also called the Scarlet Sign. So just call it the Scarlet Sign if you don't want to call them the Scarlet
we can do
Brotherhood.
that, sure.
I don't know why they had to invent a new name for it, but
Yeah, the dead Kennedys things I'm having is the you have Nazi punks.
Yes.
Nazi punks F off. You can have Nazi monks F off.
Oh my God.
So I should say the Scarlet Brotherhood they invaded Onwall during the Greyhawk Wars. They didn't invade using armies. They used assassins and trickery and by the time of the Dungeon Master's Guide back in 576, there are all these lovely advisors and things that are appearing around the Floness, and they might all be blonde, blue-eyed looking individuals of Suloi's extraction, who are just there. And then during the Greyhawk Wars, a lot of people found, oh, I believe this knife belongs to you. Oh, I'm dead. That happened in Onwall as well. And so a lot of our Living Greyhawk campaign was about reclaiming or fighting the Scarlet Brotherhood. So we had all sorts of lovely slogans like, better dead than red. Things like that.
Nice.
They were, I think I didn't come
Better
up
a
with that.
harlot than Scarlet.
Right. Better Scarlet.
So they're pretty nasty, as we say. They're mad lads, as we say in Scotland. You don't want to mess.
I don't know. I think mad lads is usually a good phrase, so I don't know.
But they are evil. So nobody's saying these are the good guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Mad lads. I love that.
So,
although I believe they have a very good standard of living on their secret evil. They even live on an evil looking peninsula in the south, far away from everybody else. So, where they live very well, I'm led to believe.
Sorry, I was just.
I think when they say like, "Oh, we're going to make a new book for this," it's like, "Oh, they're going to change everything," and it just feels like changes for the sake of it.
But now, so to help me understand, based on whatever sort of licensing Wizards allows within the DM Guild, would it be impossible for a third party to go and write something that would be a good Greyhawk book, the kind that you'd like to see?
Nope. I mean, so Joe Bloch, who was the other gentleman that you'll be talking to at some point, he's essentially written, or rather, he had essentially a Greyhawk source book that he'd written himself, ready to go. So that is it on the level of the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer? I don't know. I know what I would like to see, which is basically the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer in hardback. Mm-hmm. With full color illustrations. So, my standards are really low. And if it could be about 300 pages or so, because, essentially that, like, in theory, someone could make that now and sell it on DM's Guild and go on print on demand.
As you mentioned, we're going to be speaking with Joseph next week. Unfortunately, we were hoping to get you both on at the same time so we could have a Greyhawk roundtable, but one thing about Joseph is that he's put out quite a number of first edition books over the years, and I've always found his books to be really at the highest level of quality. He is, I will just say that. I just think that his stuff is excellent, so I have high expectations for his Greyhawk book as well.
The other thing about, because this is something that I'm going to be doing as well, is when you're publishing something on DM's Guild, it can evolve. You can upload a new PDF and improve on it. You can take feedback into account. So something like what Joe's done, that might just be the first draft, if you will. He could have it's almost like Kickstarter. If I get this many sales, I'll have enough to buy someone, pay someone to do a really nice map for me or some illustrations or something. So, these these supplements can evolve over time. So I might still get my hardback 320-page full color World of Greyhawk with lots of crunchy rules as well in it, and full write-ups of every ruler with a full color illustration of every single one. That could, in theory, still happen. So
nice.
I'm quite
So
fingers crossed.
Plans?
Yeah, fingers, toes, and anything else you care to cross.
So what are your future plans with writing more Greyhawk material?
Well, we've had fairly modest sales, so we're fairly small. We also seem to have been kind of tarred for using AI art, but that's a whole different discussion. I'm a computer science lecturer, so I know a little bit about AI, and I know a lot about people using it unethically because I get students trying to AI. You can AI an essay these days, but I can spot those a mile off. So I like to think that I know what I'm doing.
It's a difficult topic because people tend to not understand the difference between AI as it's generally used and generative AI, which is a student, writing an essay. And I think that there's very different points when it comes to generative AI. If you're just talking about, is it being ethically sourced? Is it taking, from another, what do you call it? Another artist? There's certainly types of generative AI you can use that make certain that it's not doing that. But then there's the bigger question of what does it mean to replace the human joy of creativity with a machine doing it? Do I want a book to watch TV, or do I want a machine to read books for me and watch TV for me as well? So it's an ongoing discussion.
Yeah. I mean, one of these days, hopefully we'll get to the Star Trek holodeck where you could go, computer, run me some Greyhawk, and it'll generate a really good Greyhawk scenario. That's science fiction at the moment, though. I think there are some things on DM's Guild that I've looked at and gone, I'm glad this isn't an essay that you've handed in for me to mark, because I would be, I think I'll run this one through the tools and see what it says about the level of human involvement. But so I'm probably going to, there are big projects in the background. I think the problem is everybody's now like, oh, I've got a big project. I'm going to shunt it on DM's Guild. I'm hoping you'll see more things from me. I can't really say more than that because if they don't happen, I don't want to disappoint people. But Knights of Doom is part of a larger piece of work that we put together, or rather it touches on a larger piece of work. So we have, you may see Fiend Knights again somewhere. I'm also, as I said, I'm going to expand the supplement. It's going to reach a whopping 7 pages at this rate, maybe 6 or 7 pages.
Oh, I'm not going to read all that. Oh my God.
That's a 20% or 40% increase depending on my whims.
Oh, there you
Can I get it in hardback?
You will not be getting it in anything because it will not be eligible for print on demand because it's too short. Imagine that hardback. It'd be like a kid's book.
Or you can make it like this big so that it's 100 pages.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a good idea.
One word per page.
I'm kind of pottering around. I'm doing this for fun. I'm not doing this to make millions, But on the other hand, if I could pay someone to do a nice map of cities and things for me that looks like the lovely city of Greyhawk map in the DMG, that would be wonderful as well. So I'm hopefully going to have a few more things popping up here and there. So you will. And the suggestion was, I think I called it Knights of Doom, a Greyhawk Journal, because I really love the Living Greyhawk Journal. And and also, if you search for Greyhawk Journal, you'll get mine as well as the Living. Nice. It appears in the same search. That's me attempting to. That's the extent of my marketing. So the suggestion is I might do a few more journals as well. It depends if people like it, if they enjoy it. It was a lot of fun, and I can honestly say a lot of care went into it. The other gentleman's Paul, who was another Onwell Triad member, he was also involved with Living Greyhawk with me. And there's 2 Pauls. I call them Irish Paul and Australian Paul. They're on the credits. They don't let me get away with anything. I couldn't just punt something out. If I produce an image and this guy's got the wrong color of hair or the wrong shape of nose or something, then I get told to go do it again. So I'm not just cranking out things and going, here you go, here's an image. A lot of care went into those 5 pages. Well,
Right.
maybe not the first one because that's just the credits.
Okay.
But we made sure it was spelled correctly.
He didn't leave anybody out.
Well, for
I hope
anybody
it
who's
didn't.
looking,
Sorry.
so for anybody who's looking for this, they can find your work on the DM's Guild. And is there anywhere else that people can look for you that we can point people to?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head, but hopefully I'll have some more things coming out, and we may talk again in the future because I've quite enjoyed nattering away with you guys this evening. But yeah, it's a small supplement. Joe's is, I think, 122 pages. So I thought if you were going to have us both on, he'd get to talk 24 more times than me.
Well, we won't be doing a live reading, so
yes,
that'll be
a live reading of the supplement.
Right, yeah.
Oh, there is a live recording of Call of Cthulhu that came out this month as well, for Against the Flames, which I quite enjoyed.
Good.
Random tangent there. It's done by a professional voice actor, Mike Mears, that does all the streams.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent.
Mike Murrows, you mean? No, not Mike Murrows. Why would he?
No. Mike Murrows is the Dungeons and Dragons guy. I don't think
would
he's
not be
voice
doing
actor.
voice acting. What's the?
He should be doing voice acting. Well, I think it sounds like if you work at Wizards of the Coast, you might want to have more than one string to your bow.
Yeah.
Voice acting and creatively direct Dungeons and Dragons.
I was going to say Matt Mercer, but of course that's not who we're saying either. So
no, it's Mike Meir. He does very good Cthulhu streams. They're really good. Yeah.
All right.
I think he was the voice of Shepard in Mass Effect or something, which I've not played.
Okay.
But I should.
For anybody who is looking for this on the Dungeon Masters Guild, you can look for Knights of Doom, a Greyhawk Journal. And thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute joy having you here today.
It's been a real pleasure, guys. Thank you very much for having me.
But we have one more thing. One more thing, Jason. Yes, we do. So we mentioned it last week, but it is now live. Operation Bull Market is on sale now at DriveThruRPG by our good friend Scott Congable. He's a third-party publisher for Solarian. I mean, he's not for us. He's a third-party publisher working with the Lucky 13 engine, and in this case, Top Secret.
Yes. So it is not. This is not a Solarian release, but it is by a good friend of the company, and so everybody should check out Operation Bull Market if you are playing Top Secret and you want some really legit stuff from Scott Congable, and maybe he'll give his company a name. We'll find out.
We're kind of hoping he makes it a little easier on us to brand, a branding thing where we can just say SKG Gaming or something. I don't know.
Oh, did you say what did you read the description of it?
Oh, no, I did not. So the description is a Russian oligarch / crime boss. Oligarch. Dmitry Tarkalov wants to expand his criminal enterprise. To do so, he has invited 12 of his criminal associates to bid on access to a tighter connection to his activities. Through granted access to his computer network, Interpol has asked Icon to infiltrate the auction and to steal access to his network.
Very cool. Very cool. And on that note, it's time to end.
All right.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week.